major new investigation of American abortion clinics reveals death, filth, and incompetence. The reports claim to find a pattern of abuse, keeping profits high and standards low. Americans United for Life looked at the abortion providers across the country. Jason Calvi reports.
Jennifer Morabelli died after a botched abortion. Amniotic fluid from her womb spilled into her bloodstream, making her blood unable to clot. One of the low points in a new report by Americans United for Life. The group gathered evidence from hundreds of clinics in 32 states. Another finding, dangerous, dirty clinics. In one case in Virginia, a staff member assisted in an abortion after unclogging a toilet, but before changing scrubs or properly cleaning her hands. The report also describes doctors who are unqualified. For example, James Pendergraft has had his Florida medical license suspended 4 times. And the study says things may get worse because of a landmark Supreme Court case this year. It struck down a Texas law that required abortion clinics meet the same standards as other outpatient surgical centers. The law also mandated abortion doctors have admitting privileges at local hospitals. It was a big win for abortion supporters back in June.
It's a totally unnecessary requirement, and it's obviously a very political requirement.
Pro-lifers say no matter where you stand on the life issue, these laws make sense.
This ought to be the common ground between pro-choice, pro-life women's efforts. There is no sense to the idea that if you were concerned about women's health at all, that you would object to basic health standards.
And Americans United for Life says the report shows that need for basic health standards in abortion clinics across the country.
And the researchers poured through state health inspection reports, medical license revocations, court documents, and news reports, all to put this study together.
Jason, where can people learn more?
Well, it's very easy. You can read the report online at unsafereport.org. And there you can also sign a petition urging lawmakers to pass laws improving abortion clinic safety standards and to improve state oversight of those abortion clinics.
Thanks, Jason. That website again, unsafereport.org. Joining us now is Deanna Wallace, staff counsel for Americans United for Life, who released the report. Deanna, you laid out hundreds of examples, unsafe, unsanitary conditions. Wasn't Roe versus Wade supposed to make sure this didn't happen?
Absolutely. There used to be this concept of safe, legal, and rare. But with 1.2 million abortions every year, we can say it's definitely not rare. And now with this report, we have evidence, plenty of evidence to say it's also not safe. That's all that's left is legal.
So Jason Calvi mentioned his report how the Supreme Court had basically struck down a Texas abortion clinic, a safety law. Do you think that sets a precedent?
Well, one of the things that was said in Hellerstedt this summer was that there wasn't enough evidence to show that this regulation was necessary. But now we have a body of evidence, 227 clinics, 32 states, over 1,400 health and safety violations. So we believe that this will give states the evidence that they need in order to show that safety regulations are necessary.
So then let's talk a little more strategy on that. How do you suggest states go about pushing for more of those safety standards?
Well, definitely we have state-by-state analysis of the different clinics and the violations that they're guilty of, including a lot of repeat offenders who were cited multiple times for the same violation. So we want to be able to give this to states, and we're asking for people to go on our website, unsafereport.org, and sign a petition calling for their lawmakers and elected officials to actually pass this legislation and enforce legislation that will hold these clinics accountable for the harm that they do.
And like you say, there are hundreds of providers facing investigations or some form of citations. So there are some regulations in some states. Is this really a problem of enforcement, or does the states just need more stricter standards?
Certainly enforcement is one of the problems. Something we saw in Pennsylvania with Kermit Gosnell was that clinic regulations were not being enforced, allowing him for years to maim and kill women and their born children. But in other states, such as California, there are no regulations at all. So not only do we need to pass the regulations in states where we don't have them, but we need to make sure that states that do have these regulations are enforcing them properly.
Really quickly, what was the most shocking thing you found in investigating this?
For me, it was the story of a 13-year-old girl who was passed along in a car trail from one state to another state. And while she was in extreme pain from a botched abortion, her mother begged the abortion providers to call an ambulance, and she was denied that. They then put her in another car and took her finally to a hospital where she had to spend 6 days recovering from all of the harm that they did to her.
It's sad, it's scary, all of these stories that we hear about it and the things you guys lay out in this report, but obviously it's necessary that we bring it to light. Deanna Wallace, Staff Counsel for Americans United for Life, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.